Hello and welcome to the Round Ball Australia podcast. My name is Lachie Avil. It is very early in the morning. It is very late in the evening for Matt Olsen. We have just watched the FIFA World Cup draw play out in front of us. I'm going to get it out of the way right off the top. Australia in Group D alongside the USA, host country of course, Paraguay, and the UEFA Path C qualifier. So we're not going to know the whole group until next March, but I'm joined by Matt Olsen and Christian Montegan in the very early hours of the morning. Matt, as I said, it's still been evening for you. You haven't gone to sleep. You've been celebrating Perth Glory's win over in the West over the Wanderers and kept on through. First of all, just first impressions of the group. There's no massive powerhouse. Obviously, the USA at home is going to be a tough task. All World Cup games are going to be, but we've avoided the top 13, 14 teams in the world here.
Yeah, look, that's it. It's doable. And even with the UEFA draw we got, I'll just be honest, I think we got like one of the best possible draws, really just looking at it, because you've said time and time again, if we get one of the hosts, it opens the door for a big European team to come in. When Aaron Judge, all right, you know, I know you lost the World Series, man, but you are my fucking hero, okay? Like, to avoid Norway out of pot 3, like,
yeah.
Oh, yes. And of course, look, USA match day 2 in Seattle. It's going to be absolutely pumping, but it's that quantity of just knowing that it's I don't want to use the easy word, but it's doable.
Yes, for sure. Christian, because my theory the whole way through has been I want an England or a Spain or a big UEFA team out of pot 1, because then it reduces the chance of us getting screwed. You know, we could have got Norway in pot 3, and even if we got Scotland as a pot 3 team, you could have also got a European team out of pot 4, because some of these groups have 2 European nations. So I will admit I was a little nervous, and if we wanted a host nation, the USA is probably not who we'd pick. But as the draw kept on going and the balls kept coming out of the pots, it shaped up okay.
It's just looking back on it, it's a favourable draw. You have to say that, right? Considering what we could have got. I mean, you look at USA, yes, tough host. We played them only a few weeks back in a friendly in the US, and to be honest, they did deserve to win, right? So we've got a lot of improvement to do, but at the same time, that's an advantage for us, right? Because we can look back on that game and say, okay, where can we tweak? Where can we make those improvements? And we acclimatise to those conditions. We played there before against what will be sort of a similar team. You'd say, obviously, you know, there'll be some changes because it was a friendly, but nonetheless, to have that experience already, that is vital. So whoever was behind the scenes picking the friendlies and saying, okay, USA, you deserve a pay rise, because that is going to help. Surely that's going to be great. So that's that. And then you've got Paraguay. Look, any CONMEBOL side it's not going to be easy, right? We can't take Paraguay for granted. It's going to be a scrappy game. It's going to be gritty. I'm just looking off the bat, it's going to be probably a 0 or 1-0 result here or there. There's not going to be much in it. You know, the South American sides make it super, super difficult. And then you've got the European path, which is Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo. That is favourable, right? Considering we could have got Italy's path, we could have got Denmark, Sweden as well was in another one. So all in all, I think it's a great draw. And just on the Europe as well, if Turkey do get through, who are the favourites? I've said to you in the group chat just before, they're a team who implodes at major tournaments. They're not always, you know, what you're going to expect from them. They've got some, you know, world-class stars, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Yildiz, but yeah, they can implode. So I think all in all, I think Popovic and the Socceroos squad will be looking at this draw and thinking, this is winnable. Like, we can actually win this group. And that's the positive, right? That's what you want heading into a World Cup campaign. But at the same time, you can't take this lightly, because Australia is not a side who can afford to sit back and be comfortable. Yes, if third place teams go through as well, there's a possibility of that. So the cards are in our favour, but let's just wait and see.
Winnable is definitely, I think, the tag that is going to be thrown around a lot, not only today, but in the 6-7 months in the lead up to the World Cup. Matt, obviously we've seen the USA, the 2-1 loss over in America. We're going to have that, you know, touching base with them. We kind of have a feel for them, and they're going to be a relatively easy team to understand how they're going to play moving into the World Cup. So they're going to be well known. Paraguay is a team in CONMEBOL who I'm curious to hear a little bit more about. A quick little Google search, and we are right off the draw, so I'm not going to guarantee 100% authenticity here. But my quick little Google shows 5 previous friendly meetings between Australia and Paraguay for, I think it's 2 wins for Australia and 3 draws. So history bodes well in that regard.
Yeah, so I distinctly remember playing a home fixture against Paraguay. They came over in the early 2010s. Might have been just before the South Africa World Cup, just after. I think, yep. Yes, there you go. And I have very distinct memories of that game. Look, Paraguayan football, it's synonymous with Roque Santa Cruz, the 06 team, topping that group with New Zealand and Italy in 2010. I mean, yeah, look, very, very fabled history. But it has been a really long absence for Paraguay. The ruthless nature of CONMEBOL has obviously been opened up more with the expansion of the World Cup, and Paraguayan football has found its heart and its soul again. Now, we obviously know that, with CONMEBOL, a lot of crazy things happen. There's different factors with home fixtures, away fixtures. Some teams appear, really, really better than others. You have, Brazil really not at their best. A few, fixtures here or there that have really opened up, and we've seen a side like Ecuador excel through that. And I think the big question with Paraguay for so long has been, why has Paraguay not been able to take that next step up to easily establish themselves in the top 4 or 5 with, Colombia being downtrodden at times, Ecuador, I think have still been relying on the same aged players. And I think Paraguay's found a lot of unity, ironically enough, in the same way that Australia has. I think it's more about not having the best personnel around at all times, but being able to be really hard to break down, being really rugged, just being the team that really helps you kind of go the distance. And in that sense, the matchup is wild, and to think that that's match day 3 is a pretty crazy thought. I know that the international football friends I've got, I think a lot of them would have marked down Paraguay as a pot 3 team for us to look at. Certainly with the geographical constraints, but especially because they don't have a very fierce attack, and that's a really, really good spot for Australia to be in. Elsewhere, just. The European one is one, again, we're going to have to look into it, but I think we know the threat that Turkey, as the favourite in that group, have a lot of really world-class players, and it is a scary game. That's match day 1 in Vancouver as well. So definitely a lot to play through, but again, just compare it to some of the stuff we could have been looking at with Norway out of pot 3, some of these big European teams. We really did avoid the worst-case scenario.
We actually played Paraguay in a friendly in 2006, and I actually remember this. I had to quickly do a Google search, but guess who scored for Australia in that game? It was a 1-1 draw. Tony Popovic. Tony Popovic.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember because it was either Popovic scored or he scored an own goal. I don't know why I remember that, but it was either one or the other, and he scored. And I think Michael Beecham scored the own goal. So that's just a bit of, like, what are the odds of that? Now he's coaching Australia against Paraguay in the same group. It's quite crazy.
So, as I said, that is a very crazy stat. You've done well to pick that out. As I said, we came straight off the draw, which is kind of why I can't get my words together. I also had to do a second take of the intro because I just couldn't get my words out properly, and these guys laughed at me. But I think we're going to discover a couple of nuggets that we haven't realized as we go through it. Christian's stat is a good example. I want to look forward slightly. Now, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but if you look forward to what the groups line up in the knockout stage, the first good news is Group D is a good group for us in terms of a round of 32 draw. So if we manage to go on and win the group, potentially we would place a third, runner-up or whatever it is, the lucky loser in the round of 32. And if we finished second in the group, the matchup would be second placed from Group G, which in a particular scenario is Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand.
It's not bad.
They are the potential matchups. I've seen Matt's eyes pop out of his head. They are the potential matchups if the Socceroos finish second in Group D. Matt, your reaction?
I think Matt's speechless.
in my entire lifetime, we've not been able to revenge what happened in 1998. And I look, Iran are in an absolute shambles right now. I was just telling a Kiwi friend, ironically enough, that it's a game New Zealand can win. So that's ironic for me to now sit here and endorse Iran as runners up. And then obviously, look, we know that Belgium for their sort of pot one quality are considered a bit of a joke. Mo Salah overrates Egypt, and we found that out in 2018. I mean, yeah, that's what an interesting prospect. And look, if Baisley and the All Whites pull something off, I mean, that'd be really, really quite special, right? And especially as a round of 32 fixture, let's be honest. Yeah, no, that is incredible. I don't know. I understand that just hopping around and going with whatever is kind of the theme of this, but I don't know how quickly you want me to kind of segue on to what I've noticed about the draw.
Go on, if you have particular
okay.
takeaways.
Well, Graham Arnold is screwed. Graham Arnold is absolutely great. Graham Arnold's in the group of death. I just said his name like 6 times, Jesus. Senegal, like the one West African team you just don't want to face. They have World Cup pedigree. They're always going to be competitive. And then you've got Haaland and Mbappe. I mean...
So France, Norway and Senegal in Group I. That is a tough draw.
It's just so bad. And I mean, look, honestly, like if you want to have the AFC conversation, I mean, Korea Republic getting Mexico off the bat wasn't overly easy. And then to contend with, a feisty European team in Denmark or Ireland, Qatar potentially facing Italy, Jordan with Algeria, that's going to be an amazing game. And then Argentina, I mean, the AFC have got it tough. Uzbekistan have Colombia and Portugal. I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for sure. Yeah.
Christian, what else can you pick out of what's happened this morning?
I'm just going through the groups again because there's a lot, right? We've jumped from 32 teams to 48.
There's so many teams on the screen. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
There's just so many to pick
another
apart.
one just to quickly shout out. Saudi Arabia playing Spain. They couldn't possibly do it again, could they?
Oh, true. I didn't even think. There's so many things in here that like I'm still realizing. Like one of the things we
Scotland
noticed live
is a rematch from the 80s.
There you go. And like Mexico, South Africa in the opening fixture, a reverse of the opening fixture from 2010. South Africa on home soil, then Mexico on home soil now. That like, Christian, that is just like poetry in itself.
You took mine. I was going to say that I remember it's going to be Mexico, South Africa, and I mentioned it in the group chat as well. I'm like, this is such a nostalgic moment. Like 16 years on, that was a good game as well. And for Mexico to host it, Mexico City, I believe that's going to be awesome. Probably just my general overall thought of the draw. I mean, you look at most of these top nations, and we expected this. It's going to be pretty cruisy. Like, let's be honest. Barring maybe one or two groups, like France's group, for example, we touched on is going to be tricky.
Are you calling a World Cup cruisy?
I am, yeah. Look at, like we said, it's gone from 32 to 48 teams. It's going to be more diluted. We knew this coming in, right? You've seen some of these groups. Germany have Curacao, Ivory Coast, Ecuador. Like, with all due respect, like, come on. I just look through it. Portugal is okay, semi-hard. England, they've got Croatia, but Ghana and Panama, I mean, you
semi-final
take that, right?
rematch from 2018. Yeah.
And Croatia's not in their golden generation, right? They've got a much older squad. Argentina, Algeria, Austria, Jordan. I mean, Netherlands group is actually interesting. I think Japan can actually spring a surprise and potentially even top that group, to be honest. Netherlands are just one of those teams who they can have one really great tournament, they can make a World Cup final, and then they can be super underwhelming. They're one of these teams where they just have no middle ground. So that's a really interesting group for Japan from an Asia perspective, with Tunisia as well, and then the UEFA Path B as well. That's going to be really enticing. But yeah, that's probably my overall thought. And they've separated, haven't they, where you can't face a certain team in the semis and the final. So who can't play in the final? Is it
So England, Spain, Argentina and France, they're all split up into different semi-final paths.
Yeah, I'd like to get Matt's thoughts on that as well. What do you think of that separated bracket and not facing teams until a certain
the tennis
point?
bracket? Yeah, look.
Yeah.
I was with Lachie and Paletti on another show, and I think it does ruin it because again, people like yourself, Christian, I think come in with preconceived ideas. Group E's easy, Curacao, Cote d'Ivoire, Ecuador, that's nothing. And then, Morocco comes and shocks the world and makes the semi-finals, and there's something authentic in that. Costa Rica in 2014. These things happen, Christian. So I think what you're doing by seeding these teams off and helping these top four get an advantage, it really just diminishes the possibility of getting a result like that through natural means. And so, it does certainly diminish the quality of the upsets and the surprises. That being said, I think a Spain and Argentina final is clearly something they're going after with all the star talent that's still around and is at Messi's last World Cup. And we've just seen the Oscars, Emmys, Super Bowl, Super Show, USA, whatever it was that just went on before the actual draw took place. So clearly the vibe they're going for with this kind of thing. So
I'll pose a question to you both. Sorry, who do you guys reckon will be the worst performing Asian side in this World Cup? For me, I think it's going to be Qatar. Again, I think they were terrible in their home World Cup.
I think it's Iraq. Iraq are outclassed in that group, and I think look, Qatar,
assuming they get through.
Assuming they get through, yeah. Assuming they get through, but Qatar. The thing for me is I think their Asian Cup kind of World Cup kind of bipolar form that they've become so well known for. Something's really going to have to give in that regard. I think with Lopetegui, you've got someone who, again, if they face Italy, if they face Wales, Lopetegui will manage his way around that game much better than he did certain scenarios that they were in their Asian group. Things went really, really weird. They got smacked by the UAE out of nowhere, and I think that mostly comes from these guys of a European background not knowing the Asian game as well. So ironically enough, when it comes to kind of stepping up against, again, because that's Italy and Wales and Switzerland, the two kind of mid-tier European teams on current form, of course, not to disrespect you too much, Christian. But I think it's actually a manageable situation. I think Qatar don't have it as bad.
I like South Korea's draw.
Actually, let me go so far as to say that it could easily be Iran or Saudi. Iran, again, because they're in a very messy situation. The New Zealand game is a slip-up, for sure. And then, Saudi Arabia again. You've got Spain and Uruguay, and it's a very easy trap to find yourselves in. So.
And we're all agreeing that Japan's going to be probably the top performing Asian nation, or do we think Australia might this time, do something?
Japan against the Netherlands is a tasty matchup, right? And then if you're looking at like the strength of the draws for Asian teams, you have South Korea in Group A with a qualifier, South Africa and Mexico. That they should go head to head with Mexico in terms of trying to top that group.
Yeah. I think Mexican football is this very weird enigma. I mean, you look at what's been going on. The team have been a total mess. There's been riots from fans, all these kinds of things because they care too much about this cause. When the World Cup comes around, countries like Mexico find a way, and they are going to be on home soil. And the proposition for me, I just don't think will stack up. I mean, let's be honest. Somewhere like Monterrey, Guadalajara, Mexico City themselves, with the altitude, with the natural geographical fixtures, that come into that. But then the diversity between the cities themselves, that's a really, really big challenge that people aren't talking about, simply because there's that many host cities and that much travel and that much going around. And these fixtures weren't really sorted out. But if all three of those games are in Mexico, I would really question a team like Korea's ability to travel through that and hold their own. And again, if that Denmark Ireland team out of that European group is solid enough, I don't know that it's a guarantee Korea can easily establish their authority in Group A.
So much to dive into. Before we kind of just tick off all the things we want to, obviously we have to wait 24 hours for the actual match schedule to come out from FIFA. So in terms of just confirming when exactly the Socceroos are playing. But Matt, we do know the location. So talk us through where the Socceroos are going to be playing their games.
Yeah, so it's ironic in that obviously you would think being in the USA group that we will be predominantly based in the USA's chosen location of the Western Bubble. But of course, the Western Bubble includes, yes, your San Francisco's and your Los Angeles, up to Seattle. but it also incorporates Vancouver, which is where Italy, Christian, Italy would get shafted going from Toronto through to then that Western bubble. But it means that Australia play match day 1 against UEFA C in Vancouver. So they will actually start the tournament on Canadian soil, which is insane. And then they basically just it's basically, it's the dream trip really for an Australian, because it's a direct flight from the East Coast across the Pacific Ocean, and then you're just heading southward down the coast. It's match day 1 in Vancouver, match day 2 in Seattle, match day 3 in San Francisco, or of course, if we want to be particular about it, Levi Stadium is technically in San Jose. But yeah, you will be essentially having like the dream road trip down the western coast of North America, which is just awesome. Look, the Mexican vibe, the summery vibes there would have been really cool, but this is, again, it's going to be in the North American summer, so going down the coast, yeah, awesome.
Very cool. So if I can take you down the bracket one more time. So winner Group D would go into a third place, and then the theoretical winner of that game would play the winner of Group G, theoretically, if everything goes to plan. So that is that New Zealand, Iran, Egypt, and Belgium group. So we're going to clash with that group eventually if we get to the knockouts that way. But fascinatingly, if we look the other way, the runner-up route, and of course, if we finish third, we have no idea where we're going. But if we finish second in the group and manage to win that round of 32, theoretically, again, we would play the winner of Group J in the round of 16, none other than Argentina. A potential rematch against Messi.
We want our revenge.
In the round of 16.
Want our revenge. Give us Argentina.
So many revenge angles here. You got Iran, who we could get in the round of 32, Argentina in the 16. Look, it's just exciting, isn't it? The fact that we now know the teams and the path, Christian, we can look ahead to things like this. And especially given, as we've said, potentially a winnable group for the Socceroos. Obviously, this could look quite poorly in 7 months' time, but it's exciting, right? It feels like we're building something really cool now.
That's why we love to watch the draw, right? Because it's this build-up, this anticipation. It's arguably like just as exciting as watching the actual games itself, because you're so eager to learn who you're going to face, right? And I think, in the next 24 hours will be, even more interesting, because you're going to see the exact dates, the times that Australia are going to play, just to, map out your calendars and circle those in, which would be quite exciting. So yeah, like we've said at the start, it's a massive World Cup, right? There's 104 games in total. I think 40 more than what's sort of originally been with the 32 team format. It's going to be hectic. 3 countries, 3 co-hosts. It's just bring it on. I can't wait.
Look, I think, again, the Australian perspective, it is just that breath of fresh air. It's just imagine the 2014 reaction, where it was just like, we do not stand a chance. And you really compare this with, again, going into 2022, it was all about the playoff spot. So we didn't even really know. And again, the France and Denmark thing was playing on our mind, because it's a repeat of the same game. But this is just, it's a breath of fresh air. It is, look, we gave it to the USA. We can easily do that again. Paraguay are not a strong attacking team. We can do that. Turkey have their strengths, but they are definitely beatable. And that, to think about all 3 fixtures potentially going our way, it's never happened before. So it's a massive win.
Very, very cool. The over-under, by the way, ended up being 87 minutes from the commencement of the draw at 4 a.m. Australian Eastern Time to when the first ball, with jeopardy, it must be said, was actually drawn out of the pot. They had this weird moment where they got the 3 heads of states of all the 3 host nations with a pot of balls in front of them. And we're going, what is actually happening here? And then Gianni kind of does his little swivel round. And turns out like all 8 balls in the pot were just their own host country, and they were just getting placed into the groups that we already knew they were there. It was a unique experience, Christian, watching the draw. I think Bocelli opening up was a very strong start. I know you weren't awake for that part in particular, but that was a strong start. And then it kind of just teetered towards, actually drawing of the balls, Matt.
The Kevin Hart and Heidi Klum, like I actually thought when they came on the stage and Hart was being especially cringy with the one-liners he was going with, I actually was thinking to myself, like, is this the Oscars or something? Like, have they accidentally just hosted the wrong show? And then Gianni comes on. Oh my God, there was something Gianni said. So like he's usually pretty crazy with his one lines, but he said something about happiness, and he was like,
he said FIFA was the official like happiness provider of the world for 100
years.
The official provider of happiness. Who determines that? Who assigns the official partner of happiness?
Didn't Donald Trump get a Peace Award as well? Some FIFA Peace Award.
The biggest hissy fit from not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Get FIFA. Get my mate Gianni to make up a Peace Prize.
What's a FIFA Peace Prize? What's the actual meaning behind the award?
It's constructed for egos and power.
Yeah,
it is what
it's embarrassing.
It was insane. It was it was a unique experience. I'm actually glad I got up for the start of it. I was discussing with you guys yesterday whether I was going to go the full 4 a.m. But I'm glad, Matt. I'm assuming no regrets from staying up into the early hours of the morning.
Look, Mountain Goats, Lions, Kevin Hart. This has been the greatest day of my life.
It's been great. All right, that'll do for this episode of the Round Ball Australia podcast. Thank you guys for coming on so early. Thank you for listening. Of course, go back and listen to Friday's episode as well if you want your preview to the upcoming A-League weekend. There's plenty of content going around. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.